Okay guys, so now that I showed you how to actually decant the fragrances, the next important step is of course selling them online. So I'm going to go over the two ways that I sell fragrances online. I'm going to give you the rundown on how I've been able to do it, and it should be pretty fun. So I personally started out on eBay, and I think that's where everyone should start out. The reason why is because eBay, of course, has a ton of free traffic. You list stuff on eBay, it's free to list. So my tips for selling on eBay is to, one, have good pictures. One of the first things people are going to look at on your listing is the picture. So make sure your picture is good. I'm not saying you have to go out and buy a really expensive camera and, take pictures of your bottles. Most cell phones these days have extremely good cameras, so you can use the camera on your iPhone or your Galaxy or whatever and take pictures of your bottles. The one thing I would say though is to make sure there's decent lighting. Again, I'm not saying you have to go out and buy a lighting setup, but just if you're in a room, turn on all the lights. I wouldn't use your flash just because that oftentimes doesn't look good, brings out all the fingerprints on the bottles and just looks cheap. So I don't use your flash, but just get some lights, get a couple lamps and shine them on the bottles. Just make your own little lighting setup. You just want it to look good. You want it to look like you've put effort into it. You don't want it to look like it's some cheap, sketchy, seller on eBay. So that's my first tip, is use good pictures. The second one is to have a good description. And this is really important because you want to make sure you cover yourself when it comes to selling samples. The reason why is because, of course, you are selling samples. You don't want someone to think that they're getting your whole bottle of Creed Aventus for $20 for, the 10 ml decant price, because there are people who think that they are getting the whole bottle. Even if you have the whole description listed out, there still are going to be those people. But you just want to make sure you cover yourself the best you can right off the bat. So that way, if you do deal with someone who is giving you a hard time because they thought that they were getting the whole bottle and instead they got the decant, you can tell them, like, it was all listed in the description. You need to read that before purchasing. And that's one thing I put on the bottom of my description on my listings. You can go look. I say something along the lines of you had to make sure, you read the whole listing before you buy, because I'm not always going to offer a refund, after it's already shipped. And I also don't accept returns. The reason why I don't accept returns is because there have been times in the past where people would try to return the fragrance by just putting water inside of it. So they would say, oh, they don't like it or something along those lines. They keep the fragrance itself, they transfer it into something else, and they'd fill yours with water or something and send it back to you. And obviously that's a shitty thing to do. And now you're out, that $20 or however much the sample was. So I don't offer returns. And again, when it comes to the whole, refunding thing, I don't refund after it's been shipped, obviously. So basically what it comes down to is they have to make sure they read the listing, and that's about it. So I do make sure to cover myself in detail. You can go look on my eBay page if you want, go look at my listings and, kind of get a feel for what I'm doing. I would prefer if you didn't just straight up copy what I have in my description, but you can kind of get a general idea of, what I have covered in that description. But if you look at it, it's pretty long. I go over as much as I can in detail because I want to cover myself in case something does go wrong. I can tell them and say, hey, that description was there when you bought the item, so that was your fault for not reading it. There's also a way that you can sponsor your listings on eBay. So when someone buys something through your sponsored listing, you are charged a little bit more of a fee, but that is nice because it does rank your listings higher up on eBay. So for me personally, all of my listings are sponsored. I do partake in that. It has helped me out with sales quite a bit. So that is something that you can do. You'll just want to make sure you cover yourself, that price. Again, you'll only get charged if they buy it through that sponsored listing. So, you're not getting charged every time, but it is something that's nice and it has gotten me a few extra sales. Again, you just want to make sure you account for that fee when it comes to your prices. So those are my main tips on eBay. Believe it or not, it's really not all that complicated. It's just a matter of putting those listings out there, having great pictures, having great titles, and, just getting that stuff out there for people to see. In the titles, you want to make sure you put that it is a sample. So I usually put the name of the fragrance and then, 5 ml, 10 ml sample. And, that's about it. Pretty simple. And again, of course, the pictures, you want to make sure they're good because that's what's going to catch people's eye. Now, one thing to keep in mind, though, is if you have a new eBay account, sometimes PayPal will actually hold the money that you're getting from those sales. So I had that happen when I first started. When people would buy, I would get the money, but it will be put into this pending section on PayPal. So the money is there, I just can't access it yet. And the reason why they do that is just to help keep help, keep fraud and stuff like that away. So you will get your money at some point. The funds will be released. However, that can be a little bit annoying. So that will go away eventually. You just want to make sure that when you get an order that you ship it quickly, that you update the tracking quickly. And then after you do that for, I don't know, maybe a few weeks to a month about, I think it took me, then they will take that away and then you will get your funds immediately. So again, don't be alarmed if, PayPal starts holding your funds. That's completely normal. It happened to me. But again, like I said, if you just do what you're supposed to do, you ship quick, you get the tracking out there, eventually they will take that away and you'll be good. So now let's go and talk about selling on Facebook. I talk about this all the time on the Facebook groups, doing splitting and things like that. So the reason why I would suggest that you maybe wait is simply just because on Facebook, it's going to be a lot more about reputation. On eBay, everyone is covered by eBay's money back guarantee and also PayPal's protection and things like that. So eBay, there's a ton of buyer's protection. If someone gets screwed over, they know that they're going to be covered by eBay. When it comes to Facebook, on the other hand, you're really only covered through PayPal if you use the right feature. So when it comes to paying on PayPal, there's friends and family and there's goods and services. Friends and family is not going to have any protection because if you're using what's intended for your friends and your family, there's not going to need to be any buyer protection according to PayPal because you're sending to your family and you would hope that your family wouldn't screw you over and rip you off. With goods and services, you are covered under PayPal's protection. With that being said though, if someone is paying through goods and services, it is going to take a percentage out of what you get. So the buyer themselves don't have to pay for it. That percentage is coming out of your price. So if you actually go look on the Facebook groups, when you see people selling, you'll see something along the lines of pay as PayPal friends and family or add the 4% for goods and services, because that's essentially about the percentage, give or take roughly, of what PayPal takes with the goods or services is 4%. Again, that's just something you'll have to keep in mind. If you're talking to the buyer and they're wanting to pay goods and services, you'll have to tell them, hey, add on 4% to the cost or to the price, because that would come out of my pocket otherwise. And again, that's going to cut into your price. So my advice when it comes to selling on Facebook is start out small. This is a mistake that I see a lot of people make. There will be, guys that want to get into splitting and they go onto Facebook and immediately they're trying to split these really expensive fragrances. And I'm talking like, $30, $40 for a 10 ml sample. And the truth of the matter is, first of all, not a lot of people are going to spend that much money on a sample. I mean, they're just not. That's a lot of money for a 10 ml sample. And also, they definitely aren't going to spend that much money if you're essentially a nobody, right? Even though you can get covered by PayPal, it's still a pain in the butt. You got to dispute it. Sometimes that takes like 10 days. No one wants to deal with that. So basically what I'm saying here is you want to start out small. Instead of going out there and splitting, $600 fragrances, start out with some designers. Start out with some $40 or $50 designer fragrances. You want to try to make sure it's stuff that is kind of popular at the time, something that's maybe new, something that's getting some hype, or just something that's, doesn't get talked about a lot maybe, so that'll catch people's attention. But you just want to start out small, and then as you, work your way up, you'll build up your reputation. People will start posting shout outs once they receive your decant, and then that will, again, build a reputation for you to where you can work your way up to start splitting more expensive fragrances. And again, it comes down to having decent pictures and decent posts and stuff like that. But for the most part, selling on Facebook is really nice. Once you build up that reputation, it's pretty good. So again, those are the two places where I sell. Again, like I said, start out on eBay, get those listings out there, post as many as you want to decant, if that's your whole collection, and post them all on there. And the quicker you can get stuff out there, the quicker people are going to start buying, the more traction you'll start getting to your eBay page, and it'll take off from there. And then when it comes to Facebook, again, you can move over to that eventually. Again, with that, start out small, work your way up, build a reputation for yourself. Participate in other people's splits, comment on other people's posts, just be active in the community. Don't just be there just to sell, and don't give anything back. You want to be friendly. You want to, participate in other splits. Sometimes you want to buy from other people. You want to be nice to other people. Again, that's all going to help with building a reputation, and then you'll be set to go. So again, guys, that wraps up the selling portion of this course. So like I said, just a matter of getting that content out there. Then you'll start getting sales, and you'll be set to go.